Welcome to the Dennis Postema Show. I'm your host, Dennis Postema, and today I have a very special guest, Tanya Oliver. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I'm excited to get a little bit deep into this dive because we just got done doing another show and we really, we had to cut it off because it was so good. So let's get it right into it. And I want to know, Tanya, what does success mean to you?
Well, I looked up the word. Success means achieving the things that you want to achieve. So it means that you've already achieved your goals. And success for me is, we set these goals, and I've done this so many times, and I was like, man, why have I achieved so much and I feel so empty, or I feel so unfulfilled, or I feel like I have a lot of anxiety, or I'm depressed, or I feel depressed, right? So I'm like, why do I feel this way when I had the expectation of when I had achieved these things externally that I would feel significant? And it was because I had to learn. So success is more about an intrinsic word as you're in the pursuit of the extrinsic. So the internal, aligning the internal world. For me personally, and what I teach is that success is the harmony between your inner world and your outer world. And to have that clarity on what do I want to feel internally? And then how do I match out my outer world to make sure that they're both in harmony between the two?
Oh my, that's amazing. How does somebody come to do that when, because me with goal setting, how does somebody begin to align those things?
Well, you got to get clear on if you have this huge checklist
Yeah.
of, and yeah, I have this called the life wheel. I have my life wheel here. So I teach this life wheel workshop, and it's all your extrinsic goals. And we've subcategorized into like what type of home, what type of like materialistic, the family, the relationships, the partnership, how you want to contribute back to society, your health, your fun. And then you're like, okay, well, I've achieved all this stuff. And then how do I feel? Or
Right.
how do I expect to feel? And you then get clear on that. Or what I typically do to get clarity on it, because I talked a side conversation, is I do something called a T chart. And a T chart is on the right hand side. I just write all the things of what I don't want to feel anymore. If I don't want to feel like I have anxiety, what's the opposite of anxiety? Peace of mind. Okay, so I want to have peace of mind on a day by day basis. I want to have a regulated nervous system on a day by day basis as I'm doing hard things. You don't have to be dysregulated doing hard things. You can bring the energy of peace of mind and calm energy and a regulated nervous system into the hurricane, be the eye of the hurricane.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was like, okay, so I get clear on how I want to feel based on writing out what I've experienced and I don't want to feel anymore. Because a lot of times we've already experienced things. And so our experiences allow us to have knowledge. You can't have knowledge if you haven't had an experience. That's an assumption. So once you have an experience, you be like, okay, I have knowledge. I now know I do not want to operate in chaos.
Right. Yeah.
I do not want to be insecure. I do not want to feel unhealthy and tired all day long. Okay, so want to feel vivacious. I actually want to feel like I'm living life intentionally and that I have a strong pulse. And I salsa dance, so I'm like, I feel like the word of I was looking up words. I'm really big on looking up words, and I was looking up like, what is the word for full potential? And I just spent like hours looking up this word, and I finally found the word that allowed me to tap into the feeling was vivacious. I want to live life every day feeling vivacious. And I just think of like salsa dancing all day long. It's like,
Is,
how do I live life vivaciously? And then what I do is I align people, places, and things that are in harmony with my words.
is that going to be a book that we're going to put out? I'll co-author it with you.
That that is part of the book that
Okay. All
that
right.
I've been writing. That is actually the first chapter of clarity
Uh,
and building life on your terms. So it's important to understand why we do what we do and what we expect, how we expect to feel when we achieve it. Because I work with people that are making have already achieved the external things, and they still feel the same way, if not worse, about themselves.
right.
So why is that? So clearly that's not the solution.
how do you suggest, I mean, how do you do goal setting for you? I mean, and how do you help your clients with goal setting?
So goal is just, what do I want? It just gets clear. One of my favorite quotes, I'll start with this, is like, we don't get what we want, we get what we believe we deserve. So sometimes you want something, but you won't allow yourself to tap into it, or you have a low ceiling of your think of like what you even say of what you want. You have this like, because subconsciously you don't believe you deserve greatness. And that's something I had to personally work on. I know a lot of stuff because I had to unlearn a lot of stuff and I had to work through a lot of stuff. So I was like, wow, that's so true, because that also comes down to your self-worth. Like, what are you open to receiving? If you know that like you were just your existence, you don't have to, you're not your achievements, like just by you being here is
Right.
enough. Right. So, I mean, yeah, like you want to do things that make you proud every day long. Like maybe that's one of yours. I just want to feel proud of myself. I'm doing it for me. I
Yeah.
want to have a great body because I feel good in a great body.
Right.
I
Yeah.
wanna like be mentally clear because it feels good to be clear. I don't wanna be drifting through life and confused and, allow other people to have the reins of my life. I've already lived that
Yeah.
and I know how it turned out. It did not turn out very well. And then it's like you got to go back and clean up the mess. So, when you're clear on like, okay, well, a goal is just, what do I want? So what do I truly want? Not from my program mind, but from my heart.
Mhm.
Like, what does my heart want? What is the dream, the goal, the vision that God has planted inside of me that is like not leaving me alone
Right.
until I achieve it, or until I or am in the pursuit of it, or until I start it, or until I birth that project, or that this or that, or I take the leap of faith. Like, what is it? And God is waiting for us to go first.
Yeah.
So when you have that vision, it's like God's like, hey, I gave you the vision, I gave you the idea, but I also gave it to a lot of other people. So I'm just waiting to see who's gonna like move with it so I can bless them up.
Right. Yeah. That,
And when you move, the next step opens. Sometimes you're only gonna see the next step, and that's it.
yep. Yeah. Well, how do you help somebody get past if they have that limiting belief and they have that to not getting what they, how do you get them past that subconsciously?
I mean, it's a process. I've
Yeah.
got a few certifications, and like I've got a theta healing one where you're getting into
Yeah.
different belief. You teach them how to muscle test their body. The body's the subconscious, so you can get into like the subconscious work and teach them like, is that really what you believe? Is it your belief? There's other things that is going to trigger people. So there's different modalities. I don't really have the time to do it because it's literally like an hour, 2 hour session of like a coaching session. But it's theta healing is one of the avenues. T charts for clarity exercises is
I love it.
another. And sometimes you got to take people like layer by layer by layer, because if you give people too much, you can end up backfiring.
Right.
You
To
give people the
overload.
right tools to help them process things. When I was doing a session with the client and we were doing tapping's another way to get into like the subconscious and just allowing yourself to understand what really blocks your blessings is three things. It's fear, resentment, and disbelief.
Yeah.
So if you've got anger, I did a post on this the other day, whereas like God spoke to me and I was like getting angry towards my business. People talk about resentment of other people, but what about resentment towards your projects, to your goals, to your dreams? Because you haven't like seen the manifestation of it and you put in years of work, or you put in some time, like you resent it. Well, just because you're resenting it because you're mad is blocking your blessing. So you got to learn how to remove the resentment, how to remove the disbelief, how to remove the fear so that you can receive.
Right. Yeah. That's how do you get as far as, I mean, going back to what you mentioned on self-worth and like like even self-esteem, how do you get somebody, or what do you do to help yourself build your self-love and your confidence daily?
Oh my gosh, there's been so many things. I mean, I'm trying to think back because I've been in this journey for, I joke around. I'm like, the first 20 years, I feel like I was like living life delusionally, but like sleeping. And
Yeah.
then I had to wake up. And then the last 20 years, I've been reparenting myself. So I've been
Yeah.
like, the last 20 years, I've been like reparenting my adult self.
Yeah.
And so, because when they say like 40 is literally like the year sometimes where like things really start happening.
Yeah.
So I remember starting with Louise Hay and doing mirror work. And I remember looking in the mirror, I couldn't even look myself in the eye. I wasn't proud of the woman that I was. I was constantly numbing myself, just being promiscuous, like having drinking, partying, smoking. I never got into any hard drugs because I came from a family lineage of addicts, and I grew up privileged. So my dad had built a very successful stucco business, and because he didn't prioritize his health, because we prioritize what we believe is important, and so when you're not putting yourself as a priority or valuing yourself, he fell off a roof and he had to get surgery. And because he didn't follow the intuition, he went with somebody that completely butchered him. And so he got hooked on all these drugs to help him process and find relief in his pain, his physical pain, emotional pain, loss of company. So that's when I had to figure it out. So I grew up privileged, played travel ice hockey. We had everything we wanted. Never even was always in an abundant like energy because that's all I knew as a
Right.
kid. Reason why a lot of adults work so hard for their children. But that also at the same time, because it was more just everything was given to me. Thank God for my sports background. And also my work ethic. I've always had great work ethic, and I just watching my parents have strong work ethic. My mom and my dad. My mom also ran the company. I had to really be put to the test at life and figure out how to not numb myself and to deal with my stuff, and to it kind of just is like one layer at a time, and God will give you what you can handle.
Yeah.
So it's like as you show up for it and you're responsible, and God's like, okay, he's taking it serious, she's taking it serious, she's doing the work, then you get the next like revealing, and then the next revealing. So I do know that that was like one of the bigger things as I started doing inner child work. And then I had my first mentor who did shadow work with me. So I started doing shadow work and working with my personality trait and understanding the self-sabotage and the where I had my own addictions, and just like seeing just these things of like what was really sabotaging me and getting in the way. So kind of became like peeling back these layers. And then did work with Dr. Joe Dispenza and yoga and fitness and nutrition, and just like so many different avenues of the mental, physical, emotional, and the spiritual. And I was like, man, like why isn't there just like this all in one for people? Because they're all so important.
Right.
And I know it's kind of like a long story, but I think we all have a story, and it's not. And I say this because I always thought it was just like one secret,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's not. It's a journey, and I'm grateful. I've always went like all in, and I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I don't want to see that. Sometimes I didn't want to know the truth because it hurts
Right.
so bad. Because I'm like, damn, this hurts.
Yeah. Right.
It hurts
Yeah.
my heart. I did a post the other day. It was like cool because I felt it was true. It's like sometimes our heart has to break in order for our spirit to be liberated. And so when you're on this pursuit of truth and you commit to a journey of being a truth seeker and a truth spreader, then you start to realize it's like, what you seek. I heard this quote is like, what you seek is also seeking you. A lot of people hear it in that translation. But the guy I found the original really translated it because I was seeking truth. I'm like, oh, that wasn't really what it was.
Right.
What you are seeking is what you are.
That's okay. I love
Because
that.
it's not seeking you, you already are it.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm saying so.
It's
What you are seeking, you
awareness.
already are. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing when you raise your awareness like that and you do think it's one secret, and then you start to realize, and as you're aware, you start seeing all these other things and it's a constant journey um, throughout the process, and the numbing of as an entrepreneur, you get overwhelmed and things like that. You have to learn how to do the things the right way after you've learned them the hard way. Yeah, I did
Yeah,
that.
and I'm like, damn, like I wish I didn't know this so I could live. That's why I'm like, maybe that's why they say ignorance is bliss, because you just be living life whatever, because this shit is not for the weak. That's what they will say. That's for
100% true.
sure.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. The accountability process all in itself, and then taking that on, as you realize, yeah, and doing an inventory. That's one of the things when I learned how to do an inventory, and I tried to teach my team that. And that's not an easy process to do.
Yeah, and but like I said, it's I wanted to share that because it's been like a 20 years since I've been aware of seeking, and the right people came at the right time. And you and I talked about this earlier about coaching and mentorship, and it's like things get really hard, and I finally realized the significance behind accountability and safe
Mhm.
support when you're going through that type of change, because if I didn't have coaches, I don't think I would have followed through, because it
Right.
was really freaking hard.
Yeah.
Points where you're just like, I don't know if you chose the right person to do this, because I don't know if I'm strong enough.
Right. Yeah.
And then God's like, no, I chose you. And
Hmm.
that's why I brought this person into your life, because they're gonna be a really strong part of your lineup for
And
that, for
giving
this.
up, yeah, and giving up's right there. It's so easy. So having that coach and having that person in your corner is sometimes the only thing left, just kind of nudging you to understand what God was trying to tell you. Yeah, I get that
Oh, my
100%.
coaches just picked my ass up. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I was like down. I was like tapped out. I'm like, I'm out. They're like, oh no, you're
Oh
not.
no, you're not.
Yeah. So I had coaches and mentors that really were gifts.
I love it.
And they believed in me in moments where I quit several times, but they wouldn't let me quit. And that's where also the power of free will is. I'm like, okay, if you're not gonna quit on me, I'm not gonna quit on me.
Sometimes you need somebody else to believe in you before you believe in yourself. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to not quit on you, and to not
Yeah.
let you quit.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like people can believe in you, but they'll also let you quit.
Yeah. That's
So
true. That's very true.
who are the people that are going to support your goals and not your emotions?
Yeah.
Because a lot of emotions that happen when you're really trying to when you're not trying, because the subconscious can't process the word trying, but when you are changing your life.
That's a well put. What do you think about those people? How do you like discernment? We've talked a lot about how do you discern? Because a lot of people want to see you successful until your success exceeds their own. What are your thoughts on that? And why do you think that is?
You gotta pay attention to things and not disregard anything. I
Mhm.
think the moments that I think everybody has a capacity to have good discernment.
Mhm.
Just like anything, through practice comes strength. So in the beginning, maybe that muscle's going to be weak, but the more that you show up for the practice, it's going to get stronger. And that's like, oh yeah, I do trust myself. I do trust that I'm going to listen to my intuition, because my intuition is always right. And if I have a knot in my stomach, or I have a tightness in my heart, or I feel like I just got like punched in the throat, that's a sign. Pay attention. People will tell on themselves.
Yeah. Hey, that's another hard learning lesson as you grow through that. When you're fighting that, when you get that gut feeling, but somebody on the outside, everything they're saying and everything that they're doing is right. And you're like, wait a minute, you know?
I will have to create awareness to this too, because I haven't always been who I am today.
Sure.
So there have been times that I probably messed up too, but I believe that as a human being, there's so much power in just saying I'm sorry.
Yes.
Hey, I'm sorry. I did that out of fear. I did that out of jealousy. I did that out of resentment. And I'm really sorry. And I just ask for your forgiveness, and I'm gonna try to make it better. I'm trying to regain your trust.
Yeah.
That is admirable. That was, I think, one of the strongest things anybody can do is just say I'm sorry.
Own it.
And
Yeah.
because there's moments where I for sure have messed up,
Oh,
like many times, because I haven't been who I am today. And I had to do a lot of forgiveness work too with myself,
yeah.
and like what I had done to other people, or had made other people feel. So we can't always just project it onto other people, because there are times where we've been the toxic one. We've been the one
Yeah.
that made somebody else feel like this big, because we had an ego, or we wanted to like hold the reins. Well, no, like that's not for the highest and greatest good of anybody.
Right. How did you come about that? Because I mean, I think as my growth, like I learned how to forgive others way quicker than I learned how to forgive myself. So what did that process look like to you? And do you have any suggestions or advice for people with that?
Yeah, so I finally figured out a great analogy for this
Okay.
one. Because forgiveness is like a process, right? It's like a journey.
Right.
So number one, I took a few courses, many courses on forgiveness. I was like, I didn't really like feel it, right? Because it's a feeling, it's an opening of the heart. It's almost like you feel like a freedom inside. Forgiveness is meant to free you.
Mhm.
And you got to think of it as like when you're not forgiving yourself, you're in an energy of anger and resentment. And that energy will block your blessings. It's almost like chains where you're trying to go up here, but these chains are pulling you down. So it's the key to opening the chains.
Okay.
And that's what forgiveness is for. Forgiveness is for liberation and freedom. And there's a part in Mark 11. I don't remember exactly. I'm just getting new to the scripture, so I'll be thrown out. But there's a part in Mark where they talk about manifestation and inside of the Bible, and it says like, you can have whatever you want. Like you can have it all. It's already yours. But if you're not willing to forgive others or forgive yourself, you'll never get it. It was like something like that along the line. So they had the manifestation of everything is yours already. Anything your heart desires, it's already yours, but you have to forgive. So it's like you can have it, but you got to figure out how to forgive because if you don't learn how to forgive, you'll never live life like in your full potential. You never live life receiving your true blessings.
Yeah.
And that one hit because I was like, wow, yeah,
Makes a
makes
lot of
sense.
sense. And first of all, I'm going to look that up tonight because now you got me intrigued. I'm excited to go read that. Secondly, like it's amazing, like the amount of,
Mark 11, 24 through 25.
there you go. See, you could just bop, bop, bop it like that. You
I
see?
don't remember exactly what it said, but yeah.
We'll have it memorized for the next time. So, but talk about forgiveness and like you talk about disease and like the stress and the overwhelm or the anxiousness when you don't forgive somebody or you don't forgive yourself and carrying that weight and how that burden just continues to pile up. I've had to give some forgiveness again, not to myself, but to others. And people would be like, well, why did you forgive this individual? And be like, talking to spiritual leaders, I did that for me just as much as I did for them. And the amount of release of energy, of negative energy that came from doing that was insane. It
I'll
just,
be straight. I just always did it for me because, like, I would verbally say it, but if you no longer have soul ties with somebody or you've cleared those soul ties and you've taken back your soul fragments from them, then like you need to do it for you because
yeah,
if they're still taking up space in your mind and in your heart, then it's only hurting you. And you had mentioned too the disease, like you take a word emotion, emotion is just energy and motion. So it needs to be moved. And that's what a cellular impression is. There was an impression that happened, a memory inside of your cell that's being stuck. And if you don't let it go, it's going to pile up and create disease, which is going to create a disease in the body that eventually is going to manifest at some point in your life. And so if you look up the subconscious meaning of the different diseases, you'll start to see the correlation of subconsciously what you've been internalizing. And then a specific memory is going to come to place of a specific person or specific time of something that somebody did to you or something you did somebody else. And you're like, I know exactly what just happened.
yeah.
But it
And
can
you,
be released.
yeah. And I think that you bring up a good point to the viewers and the people watching this is if you're no longer have ties with that person, you can forgive them and not have to tell them or not have to shout it from the rooftops. It's for you. Yeah.
You'll be surprised too, because as you start to clear those cells and those cellular impressions, which is also known as epigenetics and cellular memory release, they'll feel it in their cells. And sometimes you'll get a call from somebody you haven't spoken to in 4 years. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. The vibration and the way the world works. Yeah, you've done some training with Dr. Joe Dispenza. That's for sure.
Well, I love Bruce Lipton. He's like one of my favorites, but Dispenza is great for the meditations,
yeah.
and I love that you can bring science into it
Yep.
because I haven't always had this relationship I have now with God.
Mhm.
I grew up Catholic, so I had a really bad relationship with God growing up and did a lot of rebellious stuff. So throughout the journey, everything that I went through, the hardship, now I realize was is just like so I get to a point of being like feeling broken that I just surrendered and I'm like, you know what, my way clearly isn't the right way because I keep hurting myself and I keep turning away from you because like I don't feel deserving of your love because of all the BS I've just done. And
Mhm.
so then it kind of comes back into that deserving, like, I'm not worthy of deserving your love. So then we like, and it's like clearing up that belief system and that relationship that we had. But one thing in the hidden message in water, they show that love and gratitude can transform everything and anyone, even on a molecular level.
Do you have any type of process that you do personally for gratitude? Or is it just through
So
meditation?
speaking of words, I could never tap into gratitude and I was getting angry. It's like
Okay.
I'm getting mad because I can't do it and I don't know what I'm grateful for because it was making me more mad. And I feel like not a lot of people talk about that because it's real. And I just know because I went through it. So if I went through it, I'm sure there's a few of you that have also been experienced that. But what I tapped into was appreciation.
Okay.
It's almost like, man, I really like, I appreciate it because I can feel it. So what did I, and what we appreciate, will appreciate. And through feeling and tapping into the word appreciation, I was able to tap into the word gratitude. And so, man, it's currently at this level and season that I'm in. I'm grateful for even like my breath. I'm so grateful for my connection to God, for the tools that I have that have allowed me to bring God everywhere I go. I don't do anything now, and if I do, I'm like, oh, sorry, maybe I forgot, and I gotta remember. So it's like bring God into everything, like even your food, like because that what you appreciate will appreciate. When you prophesize, it will be prophesized. So back then what I would do is I would just like what allowed me to tap into feeling appreciation. It's almost like it's like a gift. So if somebody gave me like, I don't know, nice warm tea, my favorite tea is like a hot cinnamon spice. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I never have been. Everybody's like, what do you mean? I was like, I should never have drank coffee, never liked it. And but if somebody like, bring me my favorite tea, I'd be like, oh my gosh, like thank you. Like I can feel it. So tap into things that you can feel because that's what will also help you get into a better flow state, into a space of like receiving. And like, man, I remember one time I was walking and I was having a really hard time, and it was like in my mid 20s, and I was walking, I was like angry, at a lot of stuff in my 20s with everything that happened. And I was walking and I saw this paraplegic like in the in the chair, and all
Yeah.
you can do is use your mouth to go. And I'm like, really, Tanya? And I'm like, I'm just happy I can walk.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate because it's like, and then I was in a really bad car accident when I was 33, and I was in ICU for 3 days. And I was like, when I was able to start like getting up and moving, it's like, why do we gotta wait for things to be taken for us in order to appreciate it? Because when we appreciate it, we're still gonna be able to have it.
Mhm.
You don't know if something's gonna happen and you're not gonna have an arm tomorrow, you're not gonna have a leg. And I know it sounds like super drastic at a podcast with one girl, and she's like, you shouldn't say that. I was like, yeah, but I'm saying it because that's how I feel.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. So you can feel how you want to feel. This is how I feel. And this is what helped me, allowed me to step into a space of gratitude, of sometimes of thinking of the extreme worst case scenario, because that's just how my brain worked.
Yeah.
Um, of what allowed me to tap into the feeling of appreciation. And when I focused on appreciation, I was able to feel gratitude.
That's I actually just said that at my meeting 2 weeks ago with people in my group. I was like, you need to figure out what drives you. Like, people have the general why, but what like in almost a crooked like crazy sense or extreme sense of what drives you and what puts you to really, really want to do it, right? To where whatever it may be, think of a scenario that's like so crazy and so horrible, whatever it is that puts that orchestrated chip on your shoulder that gives you a why in your meaning. So I love that you said it like that. You got to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just how I felt. There's some things that you don't have to agree with me, but that's what makes us authentic. That's why not everybody's gonna be my people, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That's why there's so many of us, like artists and singers and actors and actresses. Like you can have like the ones that you resonate with, and you're not gonna resonate with them forever. It's just gonna be like, just, do your thing, mind your business, and
Yeah.
then find people, places, and things that allow you to feel good and that encourage you to do better, be better. That's all for your like highest good. You got to have that strong knowingness of what that your feelings are valid,
Yep. I
and
agree.
you don't have to explain yourself to people. It's just, this is what I feel, this is what works for me,
Yep.
you
What if get a question for you as far as if you could tell your 20-year-old self one sentence, and it can be a long sentence, what would it be?
Well, where was my mindset at 20? Because I could say a lot of things, but she wouldn't have listened to a lot of them. It was,
It's a good
you know what
point.
I mean? So it's
Yeah,
like
that's a good point.
everybody
Yeah.
does that, but it's like, man, I was so close at 20.
If she would
I
listen, what
would,
would it be?
yeah. Well, I had a really unhealthy relationship with God at that age, so I wouldn't say anything God related because I would have already put a wall up. I was just one thing that I did do a lot is which I still do to this day, is focus on just feeling good today and win, just focus on winning today. And that's it. And stay going inward, like you're on the right course.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah. It's like, your power is in your present moment. Just focus on being in flow state,
okay.
focus on feeling good. Because back then that removed the resistance of like God and Jesus and all this other stuff. But like back then I would have been receptive to that information, because remember, you want to, when you speak to people, you have to meet them with where they're at
Yep.
in order for them to hear what you have to say.
100% true.
And that's what makes also a great coach too, by the way.
Right. Right. Recognizing that. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what would you say is your, and I love that you said that about the 20-year-old you, because like I'm like now I'm thinking like, wow, I wouldn't have listened to me either. That's when people
Yeah, I
say
would have been like, I'm like, you're dismissed. I don't like this lady.
yeah.
I don't like you.
That's what I like when people are like, "Oh, so you just need more of you." I'm like, there is no way. If we had more of me, we would have so much conflict here.
Which version?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Definitely don't clone me because like we would be at each other's heads at all times. So, what would you say your best advice that you ever received was?
It really just goes back to the season I'm in my life, because even the season I'm in right now, like if I'm to be reminded, because
Mhm.
we need to be reminded over and over and over again, is trust how you trust how you feel more than you're observing your circumstances,
That's good.
because the circumstances are based on a past, present, like thought process. So
Right.
if you want to build the new and create the new, you have to become delusional. You have to
Okay.
become delusional. And I spent a lot of time going inward, but I also know when it's time to like go out and like play and go in flow state and like pull my tools. So also have like that human experience. But I think the greatest lesson I've really been stepping into recently has been trusting my higher self more and not waiting to see the proof or the validation get caught up. Like I just got to go first. And that's what leadership is. Leadership
Yeah,
is you got to go and you got to be relentless and you got to just stay connected every single day and remind yourself of like who you truly are.
that's there's three good books just in those last two statements. So on that, what anything you want to share with our viewers at all, Tanya, that you want to share with them that you got up and coming that you want to share?
Um, Man, we got a lot of, I mean, if you're in an inner circle right now, I'm doing presentations complimentary for groups of 10 or more. And we got the inner circle, which is like group coaching, it's a year commitment, and of course like one-on-one. So if you're interested, as of right now in this season, we're still working with people. That's not always the goal. My goal is
Right.
to do more, like build more and have things more, just to help as many people as possible for the time that I'm here without compromising myself.
Yep.
And so I would say the biggest thing is just find people that you can trust that will support you and win your today, and sometimes you're gonna have to be in a season of isolation,
Mhm.
your highest and greatest good. And those that are meant to be will cycle back. And that's including your family.
That's good advice to end the show on. Right? How else, how can they get a hold of you, Tanya?
You can reach me on Instagram at Tanya C. Oliver, websites at Tanya C. Oliver, and TikTok is my TikTok is confused. I'm confused because it's an extension of me, but I'm still on TikTok. I do post daily on there. It's a little messy. And, YouTube is on the goal list. It's up, but it's all Tanya C. Oliver. So anywhere you want to find me at Tanya C. Oliver.
Thank you so much. This has been so insightful. I've learned a lot today. You can send me the invoice. I've learned so much. I appreciate you very much, and I'm glad you were on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right.